Hi, Yvel.
So I'm going to have to give you some background information. All right, let me introduce myself. Yvel Crevecouer. I'm in the program in special ed. I'm an assistant professor. I am in the Department of Leadership and Special Ed. I just came back from last year from a fellowship. I was at CAST in Boston College. I was awarded through the CUNY Scholar Incentive Award. So I won a fellowship and I went up there to learn about universal design for learning. And one of the things I want to do is present to you how I use that framework to design not only assignments, but the courses and how I'm looking at it in terms of going from assignments to courses to program. All right, so here's a quick overview. So why hybrid? There's a institutional reason for a hybrid in a way, but I'm going to tell you why I chose to start with hybrids. Then I'm going to get into the background information, the purpose, and do a walkthrough. But the walkthrough will be after the PowerPoint. But I'll do a walkthrough via the PowerPoint first, and then I'll show you the first module and then my current module, so you can see how I set up my courses. And then I have some recommendations, but really they're really like lessons learned. So every semester I'm tweaking, and it gets easier, but right now it's extremely difficult because I have so many courses that I'm working on. So I'm trying to design the courses using a certain format, but each course in and of itself will need to be varied based on the content and the types of interactions that you want to have in the courses. All right, so there was an RFP at the institution, and these are the areas that the institution was looking for. I'm focusing on that in terms of how the courses are designed. So just by the sheer fact of offering hybrid and online, we're meeting these expectations. But I'm also doing something in addition. So here, where you see, it says increasing collaboration within university structured courses, I'm embedding additional aspects or additional principles into it. So the name of the project is Project Telecourse. So over a distance, but collaborative opportunities universally restructured for student engagement. So the main thing I'm trying to do is trying to get them interested beyond face-to-face interactions. And everything that you do face-to-face, outside of using actual, hands-on types of materials, you can do online. I don't have enough time to show you Blackboard Collaborate, but I can explain some of it to you. So I'm going to emphasize the interaction between content. So interaction between content and instructional design principles. It'll make more sense as I go through it. And it doesn't matter which area you're in. In other words, what I want to happen in my classes is that if they experience it, then they're more likely to use it. And because I'm in education, I'm actually modeling for them. But you can't always just model for them. They need to experience it. And what I'm doing now is I'm having them experience it without necessarily pinpointing every single aspect, because I'm also collecting data, informal data for myself, to understand how can I improve the courses the next go around. So the background. So it's a framework. It's a research-based framework in the neurosciences, and there are 3 principles. So there's principles for representation. There's another principle which is based on action and expression, and the third principle is based on engagement. Now I'll show you a little bit more. So in terms of universal, it's all learners from the start. So I'm in the program in special ed, and we train our teacher candidates to be coaches, collaborators, and consultants, because they have to interact with general education teachers. So they need to understand about all students, not just students with disabilities. And also, the main emphasis is try to minimize barriers. So if the way New York City is organized in terms of the courses or their classes in the cities, they're called integrated co-teaching models or integrated co-teaching. So you have both a general educator and a special educator in the same classroom. Usually it's like, oh, those are your students type of thought or perception, but really it's everyone's student. So what I'm doing now is trying to change the mindset of the people that are in my classes and help them understand that every single child is everyone's student in that classroom. So that's where the universal aspect comes into play. So essentially I talked about the principle. So the learning part is based on these 3 different areas in terms of the brain. Here's the framework, the 3 principles, 1, 2, 3. They're at different levels. And as you go into the 3rd level, this is the more difficult level. So you have the principles. So what I just explained to you previously is reflected here, but this is more of a concrete way of looking at it. Now, guidelines. There are 9 guidelines. So these are just examples of the guidelines. There are 3 in each principle. Then there are checkpoints. These guidelines are based on these 3 principles. And they're not prescriptive. So you can start anywhere. So usually you start where you're most comfortable, and you work your way out. So when you think about using the framework, and I want you to think about designing hybrid and online courses the same way, don't think that you have to do everything all at once, because you can be a little UDL, meaning that you're learning how to do it, but the joke is you can't be like a little pregnant. So it's supposed to be a joke, but it didn't work that well. All right, here are the checkpoints. And let me just read one for you. Say, support decoding of text, mathematical notation, and symbols. So that's 2.3. So the end goal in using the framework is this. By the time you show them multiple means of representation, they go through these guidelines and checkpoints, the learner will be, hopefully, a resourceful, knowledgeable learner. Same thing for action and expression. The end goal is for them to be a strategic, goal-directed learner. And then in terms of engagement, the affect, purposeful, motivated learners. So here's a breakdown of how I started thinking about one course. This is the traditional way it was taught, and this is how it's being currently taught. So the focus was on a lot of legal mandates and how to identify students with disabilities. And then now I'm actually doing that, but I'm also including complementary aspects. How to help all the teachers in the classroom understand about access for all students, how to provide different types of opportunities in the class, and at the same time teaching them how to individualize where needed. And individualization is not necessarily for students with disabilities, it's for all students. So as you can tell, I'm using this framework not only for the design of the courses, but also for design of the assignments, but also to change mindsets. Now, in terms of the course, connections to the core content, there really wasn't direct relationships. So what I started doing was, for both field work, for non-special education students, and for those in the program, I differentiated their experiences. So they have to do 15 hours for this course. So what I did was, they have already done a number of hours. These individuals are new to the course, or new to the experience. So what I have them do is actually write a journal, and I'll share the journal if there's enough time. And then these individuals who have more background experience, I have them demonstrate their knowledge at a different level. So they're getting graded for the same assignment, but the assignment is in a way tailored or targeted to their particular needs. So each individual, whether you are, say for example, a black belt and a white belt, you could be in the same classroom. So it's no longer a disability of the week. And this mindset was, whose responsibility, right? And they're not my students. Now, because I'm trying to help them understand these interactions here, it's really about all students. So what I've done here, if we go back to the principles, I've changed what they do. So let me quickly tell you how I format my courses. For hybrids, I try to balance both asynchronous and synchronous. So asynchronous is when we don't meet. They have activities, they do it on their own time, that sort of thing. Synchronous is when we meet online together. Usually it's through Blackboard Collaborate. And the way I break down those days when we meet synchronously, the first hour is with me. The second hour, or the second half of the class, is still with me, but I can break them into groups. So I can have different rooms, and in the beginning of the semester, I slowly transition them. So I control who goes into what room, and as the semester moves on, I allow them, in terms of the settings, to move themselves. So some people can go into certain rooms, and I can name the rooms different names. I can call this room a certain disability, or I can call this room a certain activity or lesson planning. So if you want to learn more about lesson plannings or need help or need a more experienced teacher, you can actually go into that room and work with them, and then I'm in a different room helping them with their assignments. So I have 5 minutes left, so I want to show you my website a little bit. The report itself is no longer, let me finish the courses, sorry about that. So there's a balance between about 7 asynchronous and about 7 synchronous. And with the synchronous, there's also a balance there also. Now with the full online course, what I do for the first week is, say my full online courses usually are on Fridays. So that Monday, I send a post, introduce the course. Then that Friday before the class opens, I send another post, which is called like an announcement. And then the class opens. That first week, I'm not there. Like, I'm there, but I'm not teaching, I'm not talking, I'm there to answer questions. They do their assignments, read the syllabus, and the following week, we have our class session. So I also flip the classroom, but at the same time, I also do traditional face-to-face. So in the beginning of the semester for synchronous, I do more traditional, and I control the class, and then I start introducing flipped classroom, and then I transition and give them more freedom and more opportunities. So this is just a breakdown of how I look at it. They're all embedded. So there are 4 areas that I look at, and they're based on a taxonomy, which is Bloom's taxonomy. There are 6. So I have awareness and exposure, selecting guidelines and checkpoints that resonate with them. Start with what you know and what you're comfortable with and move beyond that. Experiencing and observing it. That was the case studies and the field experience. The pros and cons, this is actually the wiki. So these are some of the activities, the videos on perceptions. These videos will be something like reversing the disability. So changing the environment and making it very difficult for someone who does not have a disability to interact or engage in the environment. I embed some of the laws. I have drawings and writings that they start off with in the beginning. So really this course is about shaping their mindset. It starts off with them controlling the course, and at the end, I control more of the course, and then it's totally up to them in terms of the wiki. So I'm going to go through these. This is just a prompt. The actual, let me just explain this to you. So I do a lot of balancing. So they look at architecture in terms of access and architecture. Then we talk about how it applies to education. And one thing that I do in all my courses is start to help them understand how to include standards, whether they're technological standards, certification standards, or professional standards. Not only in their respective field, but in other fields that with individuals that they might interact with, because they need to learn how to collaborate. So here's an example of reflection blog. Reflection blogs, I have about 5 reflection blogs. I don't use discussion board anymore. I use reflection blogs so they can try to interact. I have them up front in the beginning of the semester. So the first 5 weeks, I have reflection blogs, then it stops. Then I have reflection blogs, but they're open reflection blogs for them to interact with each other. So the control goes to them. The field experience, I'm going to skip that for now. I can explain that later. Here's a blog, a wiki, and I'll show you very quickly. It's better for me to show it to you because I'm running out of time. Quizzes and exams, I'll briefly tell you, but I'll show you. First quiz and first exam is a week long, multiple opportunities. They can take it as many times as they wish until they're satisfied with their score. The way that I use exams and quizzes are to support the readings and to help make sure that they're reading and they're building their own content as I develop the content. I don't want to assume that they read the chapter, so I have to have some sort of assessment to force them to interact with the chapter. So I decided to slowly transition the quizzes and exams. So the second week will be a timed quiz or exam. So I constrain the time, but I provide them a hard copy in PDF form so they can download that hard copy while it's timed. So what I'm trying to do is reduce anxiety. A lot of them are learning how to use technology. Then the following quiz or the following exam would not have that support. So I'm also teaching them how to provide support to other types of students and how to improve or help other students engage with the environment. They don't necessarily like to use the group tool. I don't know why. Every group or every topic has a group folder. They still meet in person. So The only ones that don't meet in person are what you would call like the early adopters, the ones that really love technology or just want to try and engage with technology as much as they can. The wikis. It's a developmental process, and it replaces writing. So instead of writing a paper, they actually develop a website